Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our program. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Walt Wilson, who is with Private Pension by Design. Walt, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mike, and thank you for having me.
Hey, so today we're going to talk about financial strategies, but not just plain financial strategies, but financial strategies specifically for baby boomers. So give us a little bit of a background of not your entire career, but what brought you to the point of some of these real specific strategies and wealth considerations that you're using now, and then we'll move into how we can apply them to baby boomers.
Well, Mike, I have over 40 years' experience in the financial service industry, and it has evolved from being a bank vice president into helping people understand how retirement planning is necessary, but also how retirement planning needs to be controlled by the individual, not just by a company or by an advisor. They need to take control of their future retirement and also current financial situation. So I have come to evolve more into being an educator of people, advising them about what might be detrimental to their future and to maybe their present financial conditions.
And I think that when people hear the word financial advisor, I think that can mean so many things. And so can you speak to how that is a little bit more fine-tuned these days than what people may expect?
I will. A lot of people may have what we call a financial manager of their portfolio for retirement. In other words, they have somebody that's going to do all the investments for them. Of course, they'll charge an annual fee for all that stuff, and that's fine. But sometimes those people are only focused on what their company offers for them and what they can maybe get out of it for themselves. Where an advisor, actually, to me, is more able to be hired by the individual. In other words, if what I advise you and what I tell you and what I recommend is something you like, then maybe we ought to establish a relationship so that we can help you. I'm more interested in helping you and not gain so much wealth off of you. In other words, I'm not going to take and derive all my income off of just one portfolio. I'm going to give you ways to learn how to manage your funds, learn how to be responsible for what you're doing, and not throw it on somebody else's shoulders. And this is a time process. This doesn't happen in just one sit-down conference. It's over a period of time. It's a relationship. Advisors should build relationships.
Yeah, it should be, and unfortunately that's not the way that it is in many cases, so that's a really good distinction to make. What would you say is one of the main mistakes that people of any age make when starting to look at their current financial advisor or selecting one if they don't already have one?
Well, a couple of things I think are very important when you select a financial advisor. Is he working for you? Is he working for a company? That's very important, because if he's working for a company, he's going to have to be able to provide what the company dictates him to do. If he's working as an individual for you, then he can represent different financial concepts, different companies. It's important that that person has your best interest at heart, not his, and that they have some experience going, not just somebody coming out of college that has now been hired by some company to train them how to generate funds for that company. It's somebody that has experience, somebody that is able to communicate. Communication is important. I am an older person. I'm starting to have to learn to communicate with the millennials by doing Texas. That's something I didn't do before. It's somebody that's flexible to learn and to grow with the ever-changing financial world, somebody that's willing to take you and help you, guide you through what I call turbulent financial times. It's important. There's so many advisors out there. Who's right? Who's wrong? That's something that needs to be done over a conversation and communication, and vetting these people through their current client base, maybe some effective reviews that have been done, and find out if this person is really genuine and real.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because what are you going to do? Look online and Google someone, and if you do find some person's name, how much trust do you have there? So you got to use those reviews. That's super important. The other aspect is social proof, word of mouth. So it may even be someone in your social network that mentioned someone. It may be someone that you speak with in person at church or Rotary that mentioned someone. But that reputation has to come out there. And I think that at that point, then your other recommendation about being a servant and serving and caring and developing a relationship can come about. Because I don't think you can say on your website, I do all these things, because then that's just marketing text. That has to come through in a conversation. You have to exhibit that.
Yep. I think generating that you're an authority in your field and that you have the ability through past experience, through people you've dealt with, providing what you say.
Exactly. So now how can we take some really specific financial planning advice and apply it to the baby boomer demographic? Because if someone were 25, you would give very different advice to that person than someone who is 55 because of the time you have to work with.
Yes, and I think, as I discussed before, time is the most valuable asset or valuable thing that we have in our lives. Once we waste that time, it's never going to be replaced. So if it's a baby boomer, they've probably worked through saving for retirement somehow, and if they haven't, then they're going to be in a lot of trouble. But they need to not be indifferent and I know it all. They need to have some flexibility in their mind because things have changed since they started saving and working for the retirement up until the present time. Many things are attacking the retirement dollars today, and they need to understand what those things are, like risk, like taxation, like inflation, like deflation, and like government rules and regulations, and also company rules and regulations. They need to understand how that's going to affect their net or their outcome or the net money they're going to have for retirement. What they think they have may not be what they have. So they need to find out what am I losing or what am I gaining, and they need to have this. Not I know it all. I've been through it. You don't have to tell me. I've got the experience. They need to have some flexibility and some ability to want to learn what's happening today.
And what would you say is the best place to start with that demographic? Because I would also say, from my perspective, you may have some people that want to go self-diagnose their problem, like, hey, I've got this pain in my, knee, let me go to WebMD. Well, you're not a doctor. It might be a myriad of things. So if someone tries to go self-diagnose their financial issues or problems, I'm sure they'll find a lot of advice, but is it the best kind?
No, they'll find tons of advice. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Again, you need to seek out somebody that's willing to take the time and talk to you about these issues. It's a conversation. It's, okay, what taxes are going to affect my retirement plan that I've got set up or my money that I got? What is inflation really like today? Is it really true what the government's saying, or is it kind of misleading that we're at a lower inflation rate than what maybe I've seen in my pocketbook? I challenge people to go. The best way to figure inflation is go to the store, keep a chart each month of what your food costs, your gas costs, and find out if it's 2.whatever% the government says. You may find out it's a lot more than that. So you need to find somebody that's willing to help you go through this so that you can prepare. I think I sometimes scare people because I tell them, taxes are going to go up. But I'd rather scare people today than have them hit in the face later on and figure out, wow, what happened to my retirement? And plan for that possible loss of more money from taxation. I'd rather have them be aware of that today and not have that all of a sudden blindside them 10 years from now. And that's what you want to find in somebody that's willing to sit down without a fee, and I don't charge a fee for this, to sit down and communicate these things. And whether I get your business or not, that's not the point. What I'm here to do is let you know there are alternatives There's ways that you can safeguard that you might not even heard about. There's opportunities that pass by every day that we just let go. And because we have a deaf ear, we don't want to listen. Or expert said, well, that particular thing is not something that's prudent today. You should never do that. And they're really trying to sell their own products.
So let's think of one hypothetical. So, just like the caveat and disclaimer of, consult your tax advisor because we can't give tax advice. So don't give specifics like here's this strategy or fund or product, but what's a scenario that would be a typical thing that someone might make a mistake on or be or confused on that you would be able to point out something where they say, aha, that's really good advice given my circumstance?
Well, here's one thing I find with the baby boomers. They will maybe start having to draw from their 401ks or IRAs over the next several years. And maybe the market's really booming, really going strong, which it has. And all of a sudden we have a huge downfall in the market. And they have set with their advisors, they're going to take out 5% of their money. And the advisor says, I can get you 5% each year, so you're not going to really have to live on your principal. All of a sudden this economic disaster comes along and they have to take more out than the 5% to live on. Why not have something out there that comes alongside that fills that gap that you can draw from, that covers that loss, while you can still build back up your portfolios? In other words, you're not drawing on your IRA, you're drawing on this other sub fund out here that's available to it, that's been around for a long time, and now you can let that money grow back up, and when it's back to the levels you want, you stop that other fund and start drawing on your other one. It's learning that there's simplicity should be in your what I call in your financial retirement plan, not just one product. There should be another product that can fill the gap and come alongside so that you don't run out of all your money way before you need to. People say, I'm going to have enough to live on the rest of my life. And I wish I could say that. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows what's going to affect your things. So have several pools of money. One would be your 401k and IRA. Another could be this policy over here of some sort or some type of commodity over here that you can use to draw on.
Kind of like having a plan B.
Exactly.
And that plan B, a lot of times someone might think that would be having something completely different than what you're doing, but you're saying layering in some things that protect risk. In one sense, it's kind of like having some, stop gaps, or, hey, when this price of this stock drops to this, sell it automatically, so you have some protection that way, or having, I'm sure there's some other financial terms of things that you would be able to recommend, where it'd be like, okay, if this happens, we want to have this in place that comes right alongside of it so that it kind of offsets the potential loss. And I think that's a really big thing. And you might find some advisors that focus on just that one thing, and they're the expert in that one thing. But if you look at from the macro 30,000-foot level, and you can see how a couple different strategies would fit together, then that might give the fuller protection.
Exactly. And that's what I call diversification. People say, well, I diversify within my portfolio to cover and then a lot of the managers and the advisors say, we've got you diversified for those catastrophic losses and stuff like that. Well, you may have them covered, but you have to have time to recoup, because you lose 30%, 50% in your portfolio. It takes 7 years to recoup back. So if you had the side fund over here, you shut the faucet off on the primary fund so it doesn't leak out and lose all your money, and you open up the faucet on the other one so it fills in your income needs for that period of time. It supplements that income time. And then you may even have that same type of advice for a millennial, but it might have a little bit of extra risk layered in. So with these kinds of strategies we're talking about for a baby boomer, you are constantly keeping in the forefront of your mind their time frame. And again, we don't know when someone's life is going to end, but we also know that at age 55 or 65, there's a lot less years or there's a lot more years in your rearview mirror than others. So you have to recognize the fact that, okay, we have to manage this risk, and that risk has to be super low because you've got X number of dollars in your portfolio to work with, and we have to make sure we... Hello?
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, we have to make sure it's going to be there when they need it. I mean, the biggest question that baby boomers have, do I have enough money to live on, or will I outlive my money. We don't want them to outlive their money.
Yes.
I can't tell them how much they're going to need.
I was just going to say, at a certain extent, you can go get a PhD in actuarial studies where you can maybe pinpoint something, but nobody knows. I mean,
nobody.
God only knows that, and we certainly are not privy to that knowledge. So you have to do everything within reason to make those plans.
I agree, 100%.
And safety is paramount, and I would venture to say, in fact, just recently in the newspaper, I saw some headlines of people that were taken advantage of, and these were actually athletes and high profile, not older demographic, but many times if it doesn't pass the sniff test, just something doesn't set right away with you, you might want to just watch out. And so that gets back to those recommendations and referrals and word of mouth. And when you meet with that financial advisor, if they're saying some of these things with, hey, let's catch up. You told me that you lost a chunk back in the last dip. Let's get you caught up. Well, if you're 55, 60 years old, caught up might not be the strategy you want to take.
That's very, very true. A lot of what happens with advisors is that they're working for a company, and they're working with your money to make their company wealthier. They're controlling the rules a lot, and they're directing you, and they're making statements maybe that aren't really right for you. So you need to find somebody that can find you the answers. Work with somebody. I work with other financial advisors that do more in the risk market than I do, but I have vetted them. I trust them. I know what they're going to hopefully present to my client, and they're individuals that aren't tied so much to a corporation. They're independents like I am. I'm an independent advisor where I can represent many concepts and companies. You're not just tied into one captive type agency or advisor. So you've got to work with those people.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and we'll end with that concept, because once you have gotten that recommendation and you feel good about this person, one of the things that you need to validate in your own decision-making process is what you just said, because you just know that if you had the hidden camera in the sales rooms of some of these places, and we're not mentioning names, of course, but you just know that it happens where they say, guys, we've got to push this product this month, or we got to make sure that we get the numbers in for this one. And is that advisor really taking your best interest in mind, or trying to fill in the blanks to make their quota that they were mandated? So when you have that independent advisor, they're giving you a smorgasbord, a buffet plate of options, because those are what fits your needs, and they don't care which one that you choose, because you are really, really just focused on that client.
One quick example of this. I met with a gentleman yesterday that's no longer in the financial advisory field. He was in it maybe 10, 15 years ago. He's now does remodeling of homes, but he says, I couldn't live with myself. When I got up in the management, they kept telling me, they kept misleading people in what they were telling my clients. I was okay as long as I was in sales, but when I got in management, I saw all the inside stuff that was going on that was not right. I had too much integrity. I had to get out.
Yeah, we can leave it at that, because that's just so important. And being able to have that good quality advice from an independent source where you're not being controlled like the marionette puppet strings, that's really powerful. So, Walt, thank you for your time today. What's the best way that people can learn more about you? Phone number, website?
Website is privatepensionbydesign.com. That's privatepensionbydesign.com. Local phone number is 303-798-6363. Toll-free number is 888-261-2361.
Excellent. Well, Walt, thank you so much for your insights today in proper financial planning.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.